up, you guys? It's Mary.
And Amma.
We invite you guys to like,
subscribe,
share,
and comment
down below, because today we are going to be, giving you guys a little story that you guys have asked about. I think we were doing Sister Wives, and somebody in the comment section had asked about Mom talking about the second time she married her ex-husband.
Yes, okay.
So Mom's going to get right into the story.
Right. So, my ex and I, we married, it was an arranged marriage, right? I went to the mosque and I told them that I wanted someone who was educated, tall, and gentle. And the imam, who will be like a pastor, right? He said to me, I have two men, they're both educated, and they're both tall. One is gentle, and the other one I'm not sure, because I don't know him that well. I'm not sure about his gentleness or not. So I decided to go for the one who was gentle, because I always felt like, if someone's gentle, that means they're a nice person and stuff like that. I should have known that what I know now is never go for the nice guy. Because nice guys, you really have to
sometimes
vet
become
them.
the worst.
Because you think they're nice, and then they can really do some mess up things, and it hurts more.
Yeah.
Because they were so nice, and you were kind of tricked, Anyway, so we got married. So yeah, of course, when I first saw him, I remember when I went to the mosque, and I didn't know who it was, but he said this guy's going to be there on Friday for our prayer. We have our prayer services on Fridays. Like Christians have theirs on Sundays, we have ours on Fridays. So anyhow, I was standing there, and some of the sisters were coming and saying, oh, are you the sister who's getting married? I was like, yeah. And I was looking at some of the brothers coming in. One had like a huge tummy, and I was like, oh, and he was like shorter than me. I had a bald head, and they're like, oh, maybe I think it's this brother. Yeah. He is looking for a third wife, sister. Yes, and I was just sitting there, and at that time I was like, maybe we'll put a picture of my wedding day.
Yeah.
Right. So I would put a picture just of mine, not for the ex-husband, but just of my wedding day.
Yeah.
But I was at that time I was like, I don't know, I was about 165 pounds. I actually remember, and I'm going to tell you why. But I remember how much I was, because I was feeling at that time that I was too big at the time. I was feeling a little kind of like very self-conscious, very insecure because of my weight, because I was used to being like in my 120s, never higher than 130s. So I had gained a little bit of weight, and I wasn't feeling like my best self. But anyhow, we got married. It was a Friday, and even before we got married, I had to, because I was coming from another state. I lived in Charlottesville, Virginia, because that's where I went to college, and he lived in Petersburg, Virginia. So it was about a 2 hours away drive. And I baked our wedding cakes. I baked 2 cakes, and then I had to go, and I didn't have a car at the time. And he had a car, and he was saying, "Oh, I'm going to give the sisters in the mosque some money, and they will, slaughter a goat." And I hate goats. I don't like the meat. But they will make this goat curry or whatever, because the imam over there had 4 wives, so his wives were gonna make this stuff. And I don't even know why I didn't ask him to do the drinks. I just felt in my mind, like when I got married, I felt like I had in my mind the kind of person that I wanted to marry. And I knew I wanted to marry someone who was Muslim. And, so anyhow, so I had this stuff in my mind, and I was like, when I get married, I'm going to take my husband's lead. And that's not really how I was. I was like a go-getter, like, very optimistic about life. Like, but I became this person who I had imagined I will be when I get married.
Yeah.
So I never really will counter. If he says this is how we're gonna do things, I was like, oh, okay, that's what we're gonna do. So I don't know why I didn't ask him to go get the drinks. I didn't even have a car. And he was telling me things that I need to buy. And at that time I was, I was working. I was just like, man, I had to go get like these 2-liter bottles. I think I got about 10. And I'm walking, I gotta walk from the store, go stand where the bus is, gotta climb up the bus with this stuff, and then I gotta walk for about a good 3 miles before I get to the house. And I was just like, why am I doing all of this? But it never occurred to me. Like, this guy's not providing for you because he has a car. He could easily go to the grocery store and get it.
Exactly.
So, and then on top of that, I had to make the cake. Originally, we were actually going to get married on September 30th. And, my wali, who is like our protector, he was the African American Studies professor at the university that I went to.
Yeah.
And so he was like my wali, because every woman has to have like a wali. Usually it's her husband, it's her father or an older brother.
Right.
But my older brothers lived in DC, so they were far away. So he was right there. So he became my wali, and his family was Muslim. And I remember that we had to go to his home because he wanted to meet this guy before I got married. And his wife was just like, don't marry this guy. I mean, they were American, and they were like, please don't marry this guy. He is not the right person for you.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it's so funny. When I was 16, there was a Muslim man when I saw him, he was such a good husband. That's how my 16-year-old, I saw him as a good husband, as a provider. Do you know, my ex looks just like that man? When I think about it.
Really?
Yes, that my ex looks just like this man, who I used to idolize in my 16-year-old mind of him, because I was friends with his wife, of him being such a good husband. And that's who, in the end, I guess I married someone who looked like him. But when we going back to the professor, when we went to his house, his wife was just like, she was listening to him talk, and she was just like, don't marry this guy. Because he was asking all kinds of questions, and they overheard him telling me stuff like, how much do you weigh now? That's why I remember what I was. And I told him I really weighed maybe a few pounds more than 165, but I told him 165.
Yeah.
But I may have weighed like 168, 170, but I told him 165, and he was like, okay, just don't gain more than that. As long as you remain this weight or lower, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And the guy was just like looking at him like, okay, but they just really didn't think. But I went ahead, I married him, even on the day. We were supposed to get married on the 30th, when all my family could come, when a friend of mine could bake our cake. She was actually a caterer. And he talked to me and said, no. We should get married September 1st, because he didn't want to wait. He wanted to be with me and all this stuff. So we met August 4th for the first time, and 4 weeks later exactly, we were getting married on September 1st. And I had to go. He didn't come to Charlottesville to marry me.
Yeah.
Because if we'd done it September 30th, that's what we were planning for. But I had to go to Petersburg for him to marry me. And I remember that day, it was a very hot day. And even my sister-in-law who came, she was sitting in front of the car with the cake.
Yeah.
And even it was so hot, even though the AC was blowing, that cake was melting. And then part of her dress got on the chocolate cake, and all that icing went on her. It was a chocolate strawberry cake. But even when we were driving, I was telling him, I was like, this is just so much stuff that I have to bring over there. I wish you had done some of this. And he was like, we don't have to get married. I mean, just like having a fit,
Yeah.
And then when I was like, well, okay, fine, yeah, well, maybe we shouldn't get married, it's like he just talked me back in. So right there, the manipulation tactics had begun. And even the thing about my weight had begun. So our marriage, I would say even from the very beginning, it was rocky. But I was determined we were going to be together forever. I will always write down all the wonderful, great things, anything that we were doing, little things to be grateful for. But in the end, it just didn't work out. In the end, I think as time went on, there was clarity was coming to me as time went on. And, we divorced. I had the children. I had, sole custody of the kids. And he will come maybe 2 or 3 times in the year. He'll come down to visit, maybe if it's on a birthday sometimes, or if it's Christmas time or whatever, he'll come down.
Right.
So we were married for like 12 years, and then we broke up. And going to one of the things I was very happy about was the fact that before I married him, I remember my mom, she was trying to find someone for me to marry so that I could get a green card. And there were quite a bit of Sierra Leoneans who wanted to marry me. But, I just never wanted to marry anyone for a green card. And I told her that. I said, I have my employment authorization. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go through the process. Have my employment authorization for a year, apply for my green card, then have that for my temporary green card for 3 years, then get my permanent green card, that'll be 5 years, then apply for my citizenship. So it really wasn't until I think my son was like 3 years old or 4 when I finally got my citizenship, and that's my youngest son. So by that time, I think we had already been married like almost 10 years. Before I got my citizenship, but he had nothing to do with that. So that was a blessing. Because I always thought if he had helped me, oh my goodness, he would have gone all over the place to say she used me and all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It felt good to kind of have that and not have to worry about that. Anyway, after 6 years, we had been away from each other for about 6 years. Oh, so anyway, and before I finally divorced him, because for us, especially coming from Sierra Leone, it is really hard. Like our culture in Sierra Leone, you don't get a divorce. In fact, it wasn't until I do believe 2010 that they finally put the law. It was against the law for a wife to divorce her husband. The husband can divorce the wife, but it was a law that the wife cannot divorce the husband. And I think they changed that like after like 2010. But for me, I had actually left my husband, my ex, like on three different occasions prior. I had left him 3 times, and the 4th time was when I actually finally divorced him. So we had, it was very, it was chaotic. It was chaotic. But I just kind of looked at it. We were both married. I'm not gonna put it all on him. We had some. There were issues, of course, and then we finally got divorced. But I wanted everything to be peaceful because I was always aware of the fact that my children are half of him, So with them, and they were fairly young, like when we divorced, they were fairly young. I think my daughter was 9 and her brother was 7, something like that, I think. So they were still fairly young when I divorced him. I'm trying to think, 2006, how old were you? You were like 8.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so you were 8 and your brother was like 6. Well, you were about to turn 8 and your brother had turned 6. Yeah. So you were 7 and he was 6 at the time. Anyway, and that's when we divorced. But we were separated for 6 years, and during those 6 years, I was still in contact with him, you know. And it wasn't. It was during the 6 years that I actually got to learn about him, because when I met him, he had introduced me to his sister, but he never introduced me to any members of the family. Like, I never met his mom. You know, I didn't even know that that was something important for me to do. But the way he explained it to me was just that, you know, I don't want you to go, this is my family, I know my family. And they're going to tease you because you're overweight. And, you know, and they will laugh at you. And you don't want that, you know. So just trust me on this, okay? Just trust me on this. You don't want to go meet my family. And so because of that, I felt like I didn't push the issue, because I was like, you know, he is right. He's the one who knows his family. And I was feeling, at that time, I was feeling so insecure about myself. By that time, I think I was like 200 pounds. And every day he talked about my weight. So I was just feeling bad about myself. And I was just like, it was easy for me to say, yeah, okay. You know, even though his mom loved me, his sisters were very nice, you know. But I always thought, I said, oh man, you know, I can't go and see them, you know. Up until the time we divorced, I never met his mom. But I'll always send her, like, you know, money here and there, yeah, cards and pictures from the children. So at least she knew how we looked and everything. And it wasn't until later I asked her, like much later, after we had been married for like, when we married the second time. And I had asked her about this, and she's like, make fun of you? How am I gonna make fun of you when most of us are big down here? You know, they're from Louisiana, and I was like, oh, okay, you know. But anyhow, so for the 6 years that I wasn't with him, because I, you know, for the 12, when we were together for the 12 years, I grew to love him. You know, that's why I know that love can grow. You can meet someone who you don't love, but the chemistry is there, you know. Because I did that, I met him after everybody was trying to point to whoever that I'll marry. He came in, and when I looked at him, I was like, ooh, I hope it's this man. And when I went in, it surely was. And I was happy because, you know, physically we had that chemistry. You know, there was chemistry between us. But, you know, I didn't love him because I didn't know him. But as the years went by, I did love him. I did fall in love with him, you know.
When you were divorced?
No, when we were together for those 12 years, I did fall in love with him. So when we divorced, even though I divorced him, I always will pray for him, you know. And I kind of, in the back of my mind, I was hoping that one day he will, you know, get himself together and he'll come back into my life, you know. I still kind of had hope for that.
Yeah.
You know, but I kept in contact with him. Well, he kept in contact with me. I mean, and we had to because we had children. But we talked a lot, and during those 6 years, I got to learn a lot about him. Like a lot about some of the traumas that he went through, which I did not know, you know, when we were married. So I got to know about that and stuff like that. And, you know, he'll tell me he's seen, you know, a therapist and all that for his past trauma and all this stuff. And so I was like, oh, wow, you know, he's really changing. And he will, for those 6 years, he continued to just plead with me, you know, for us to come back together. And I will always say, you know, no, I don't think so. Because I didn't think that he, you know, he was ready. So what happened one day, I was watching as the kids, of course, you know, children, as they get older, they're having their friends and stuff like that. I think everybody starts having problems with their teenage children. And, you know, I wasn't any different. And, you know, he'll say stuff like, you know, let me come back, and let me heal our family. You know what I'm saying? I need to be there for them, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know, I had started to be like, yeah, okay. And at that time, I was on this exercising, eating right. So I was dropping the weight that I had gained when I was with him, feeling very good. By that time I had already finished writing my first book, well, my first and only book that I wrote. So I was just feeling good about myself. And here he came. And I just happened to be watching Oprah, and Ayanla was there. And they were talking about how, it's so important to have fathers in their daughters' lives, especially. And these women were getting up and was like, I had so many relationship problems because my daddy was not in my life when I was young, and blah, blah, blah. And I fell for that Kool-Aid. For the longest time, I blamed Oprah and Ayala for my problems.
You sure did.
I blamed them. But they were not to blame, because this is what I've learned in the years. When someone is giving you advice and you listen to these self-help gurus, you listen to them, you learn some things from them. However, you've got to look at your own particular family and see if it applies or not. And it did not apply in my family. But I was listening to that, them saying, it's good to have the father in the daughter's life. And then I went to work one day, and this lady said to me, elder lady, she says, I was telling her about, I said, I don't know if I want to give him another chance. It's been 6 years. And she said, believe me, give him a chance. He's going to be wonderful. And so the next day when he called, I said, you can come on home. By that time, let me tell you, I had bought a house. I had moved the children.
That's how it went?
That's how it went. By that time...
That's how it went?
Yes, that's how it went. You did not know?
No.
Yeah.
You can come on home?
Yes. But before he even got there, let me tell you, I had moved the family from an awful place where we were living to a very nice place. I bought my house. The first house. Like all of those things. Like I have stuff going on, And I tell him, come on now. And here he came. And he came, and within the first week, we were already arguing. The kids were not on board at all.
No, Rashid was. Rashid actually was.
He
on
really
the wedding
wasn't.
day, he was actually kind of happy.
Right.
Like, he thought I was so happy they got together. I was looking at him like,
But however, I remember we were trying to do this wedding because he came back, I do believe, like in June, and we decided we were going to remarry in August. And so we were trying to get like the food, like what are we going to make? It was going to be a small wedding for like 50 people. It was going to be in the mosque. We were there like arguing over what we were going to have to eat at the place. Now, he really didn't have the money. I had some money because he still had bills that he had to pay where he lived when we were no longer together. We were in Maryland by that time, so I was in Maryland. He had gone back to Petersburg. And he still had bills to pay. And I tell you, we were already arguing about that. And I remember one time when he left the car, my son saying, Mom, are you sure this is a good idea? Because you guys are already arguing. And I was like, oh no. I was so determined I was going to have a man in the house so that my daughter doesn't have to be like that lady who was on Oprah with the Yangla, crying how her relationships were all effed up because her daddy wasn't in her life. And what I should have looked at was the kind of daddy they have who really, even when we were married, it wasn't like he was hands-on. But, it is what it is. Let me tell you, that man came back. He came back with an agenda. And that's why I tell women, do not accept a man to come back a second time. Just don't do it. Because when they come this second time, they come back to rewrite what the history was. Especially if they have done some stuff, They come back to rewrite that. If they hadn't broken you before, they come back to break you. And I knew that because I remember saying to myself one day, I said, if this doesn't work this time, it will break me. I remember saying that to myself. And we had the African ceremony, and then we had the Islamic ceremony the next day for the wedding. And in the African ceremony, he was already acting the fool. And my sister came to me and was just like, that man, he acting the fool already. Are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, she's trying to mess up my good time, my happiness. I was so hell bent on getting married. In fact, I was giving myself, a tap on my shoulder like, girl, you done did it, girl. You waited on your man. You waited on your black cane. And your patience has been rewarded.
Did you tell him about the dream you had before he came back?
You got the man you need, girl. See? All I needed to do was be patient. I helped to get him to where he is. And now I got my man. I have my Walmart ring on my finger that I had to pay half for. It wasn't even sterling silver because that thing was tarnished in a week. But I had that thing on my finger. I was so happy.
But Let
me tell you. I was
how far have we fallen, Amma?
I was in such a delusion. Okay, I remember 2 days before the wedding, I had a dream. And usually, what I do, because I'm a writer, I'll have a dream usually or an idea either in the shower or a dream. So usually even when I go to take a shower, I have my little pad there and a little pencil on the toilet seat. So if I have an idea, I can just write it down so I don't forget. And I had a pen and a writing pad next to my bed in the first drawer, so that if I have a dream and I wake up, I can write it quickly what it was, so I don't forget. Because you know how you forget your dreams when you wake up. So this time I had a dream. And in the dream, it said, and it was God talking to me, and I could hear the voice very clearly. And he says, and there will come to thee a standee to make all things new. But if you are patient, help from Allah is surely nearby. Because we call God Allah in Islam, right?
Yeah, it's just Arabic for God.
And standee, there will come to thee a standee. I spelt it, the word stand, and I put E. So I wrote this. It was still dark, and I kind of wrote it quickly, and I put it in my drawer and left it there. I didn't look at that again. Now, even though the next day I was like, I had a dream. I wrote something down. And I took it out just to see if I had actually written. I said, oh, yeah, I wrote that. I put it there under something. I didn't want to know. Because I knew it was kind of like some kind of warning that maybe God given me. I didn't want to know. Because I had my man. My man was here. My man was home. My patience has been rewarded. This is going to be great. We're going to put our monies together. He's going to be loving. He's going to be this, father and hubby that he wasn't before, and he's going to do it right. I was so happy. I sold my wedding dress. Let me tell you, that was one of the happiest days of my life that day. I tell you, don't lie. I was so happy. I really was.
I'm looking at Rashid, I'm looking at the man. I'm just like, this will end bad. I literally was thinking that.
And we were just, so happy. And let me tell you, it didn't take long. It did not take long.
He made us give up the dog
that
he promised he was gonna keep.
Yeah, it was very
that
tumultuous.
Was sad.
It was quite something for the 3.5 years. But the sad thing that happened was his brother died. And I remember before she passed away, she was, at that time, we still had not met her. And that was one of the things that this time around I told him. I was like, well, this time we definitely have to go see your mom. Oh, yes, we will. Definitely. And as we got into the marriage, he even forgot our first year wedding anniversary when he came back. That should have told me something right there.
Yeah.
But, his mom at that time, she kept on just pleading with me and just like, I just want to see you guys. I just want to see you and those kids. And she had even made the comments like, I don't care. Like, because I kept on saying, well, he has to have some time off and stuff. So she finally said that because she passed away in December, but I remember in November she says, look, just come and see me. He doesn't have to come with you. Just come with the kids. And I was like, okay, but then when I thought about it, I was like, no, I don't want to do that and, let it be embarrassing for him, like we go the first time and he's not there. So he had said, because I had gotten on him, and he had said, okay, fine, we will definitely go. It was December 5th. And we were to leave, actually, I do believe like that weekend. And that Monday when I went to work, he calls me to tell me his mom had died. And I lost
she
it.
died 2 days before we're supposed to go.
Yeah, I lost it. I think I almost fell down the steps going to my job. I walked into the office. I was wailing. Like they had to carry me to a chair. And I could not believe that she had passed away because she was such a wonderful, beautiful soul, such a kind soul. She loved me. Even when we broke up the first time, and she had asked me why we broke up, and I told her, and she knew, because I had talked to her through the years, which he hated. Anytime he'll do something, I'll call her, and she was the only one to really calm him down, and he was always ashamed, like, if I had to, like, call her or something like that. But she was always on my side. She was fair. She was just fair, She wasn't one of these moms who was like, no matter what my son do, I'm going to be on his side through rubbish and whatever. She wasn't like that. She really wasn't. And we finally went there. And when we got to Louisiana, there's some... Let me just say this man told some lies on me. People were wondering, like, his sister was, trying to explain to me, oh, yeah, well, you finally finished school, right? Because, he will always tell us you were busy. That's why y'all could not come. Which was never true.
Did you ever confront him?
Later on, yeah. I was always the one who wanted to go. He was trying to say I'm lying or the sister lying. But, I remember when I came back, this was in December 2015. And when we came back, he behaved very badly when we were down there. Behaved very badly. In fact, his brother-in-law, who he had told all kinds of things to about me, and he came to me and he said to me, he said you're giving her and him a hard time. So I just told him a few things, and then he started to really see it himself. And then he also checked him. He also checked him because he realized this man has been telling us some stories. And when they met me, it was different from what they had heard. And the only people really who, and I told the brother-in-law, I said, the only person who knew everything really was his mom. I never shared with his family members. I said the only person who knew something, all our stuff just died when she passed away. And when we came back, I told my ex-husband, I just said, look, I'm not going to try anymore. Because like Christine and Sister Wives, what we've been doing, I had tried everything to make him happy. And I finally saw very clearly, that this guy, he wasn't here for me. So I told him in 2016, I said, look, I'm not doing nothing to save this marriage. It's up to you. I'm going to give you a year to fix it. If you don't, after that, it's over. And January 2017 came, and I knew we had to move on, but I didn't want to move on. I was kind of afraid. And then I was sitting in the toilet one day and I like, oh God, I'm in this shit. Help me. I want to get out of this. I don't know how. And sure enough,
2 days later,
the brother came, her brother came, and showed me some proof of some things that he had heard.
That he was living foul. He was living foul in the front yard.
And I saw that, and I was like, that weekend I was so sick. I had bronchitis. I had pneumonia. I saw that, and I said, you know something? I said, okay, God, I gotta be obedient. I asked for help. You sent the help. Now I gotta be obedient and move him out. I packed all his stuff, put it on the car at his job, and told them to call him. And he came and saw all his stuff on his car. So he pleaded and said, you know, if he can leave, you know, after he get his paycheck. So he came, he stayed for the week. I said, that's fine. He stayed for the week and got his paycheck and left. And let me tell you, he was the happiest I had seen that man in 3 years. That man was packing the stuff. He was smiling. He said, I'm always going to remember you, Alma. I'm always going to remember you and the kids, not because I'm packing now. Just, oh, I'll be thinking about you all.
You're my first family.
You all are my first family. I said, oh, okay. Okay. Like, I just had to let him go. He didn't want to be there. And he was misbehaving.
Yeah.
Because he did not want to be there. And he was hurting not only me, but the children. Because he didn't want to be there. You know?
Yeah.
And so, that's how it was. And I let him go. And I learned quite a bit of things. And yes, when he left, I was broken. I was broken for such a long time. You know, and it took a while to get healing, to get clarity, and all that. A lot of prayers, you know. But I'm finally at a place where really I can laugh about some of the things. I really can. And you know, that's when you know you're getting healed.
Yeah.
You know, when you can just things that, like that therapist said in Sister Wise, when trauma that brought you to your knees and you can now laugh about it, that's when you know you've been healed. So that was my story.
Yes,
you know, you all have questions. That was a short. I know this was long. This was like a good almost an hour. But
wish
you
me
know,
luck with the upload.
it might be a part 1 or part 2.
Yeah, that might be better actually.
Yeah, but yeah, we are cordial. Yeah, we are cordial. You know, her brother is with him now while we're here. You know, so.
But yeah,
keep
y'all.
Pushing.
It's Mary.
And Alma.
We hope you guys did like this story time.
I know, and subscribe to us and comment. You know,
Yes.
Leave your comments about what you think, and if there are other stories. I know there's some other stories I have to say about.
Yeah.
Let us know.
We invite you guys to like.
And let us know if you enjoyed this story time.
Yes. We invite you guys to like,
subscribe,
share,
and comment
down below.